Hi, this is Jenny Chan. I had the opportunity to speak with my friend Soledad, who shared very similar experience with me in Venice Beach. Check out our conversation right here.
Wow, San Francisco to Los Angeles. Here we are.
Yes, our Golden State is
Yeah.
filled with
Yes, we're
trouble and
connecting all the coastal line.
yes, and I'm so excited to finally be connected with Venice Beach because it looks like it's crazy out there with all the homeless issues, and almost looks like San Francisco but with sand. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm
Yes.
so excited to actually have you talk to us about what is happening on Venice Beach, why you invited Larry Elder out there, and yeah, let's go.
And first of all, Jenny, thank you so much. This is Soledad Ursua. I'm sitting here with my ride or die, Kylan.
Hello.
And
Hello.
we've been wanting to contact you for so long because you are literally the San Francisco version of us. It's
Yes.
crazy.
Yes. We're the ones
Yeah.
actually trying to clean this mess up, right?
We don't have any
And hold
sand
people
here,
accountable.
though. We don't have any sand though. You know, you got. I mean, I'm pretty sure
Well,
our
we can't
homeless
go in our sand
population.
because it's full of needles.
Well, our
Yeah,
homeless
we can't go in the
population
sand.
is not
It's
having
needles
as
everywhere.
much fun as Venice Beach. I mean, sometimes I should just like give. I feel like printing out some kind of invite and then just sending them to Venice Beach, and then you guys deal
Please
with it.
don't. Our dance party is full.
Yeah.
We have
So,
we
yeah.
have our no pants dancing party is full. Please. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
But it was crazy because like as soon as the pandemic started, I don't even know what happened. We started blocks and blocks and blocks of tents, and one day I just walked out and thought, wow, this is freaking bananas. Like, what the hell is happening? It almost felt like a hostile takeover. I don't know how it's like in Venice Beach. Tell us how this even got started.
Well, for starters, what you just mentioned, when the pandemic started, the rules did not apply equally to everyone. So while
Hmm.
we were, ordered to stay in place, they were not. So we actually had such a huge increase of people being dropped off with cars, vans, and whatnots with all their stuff in front of our homes, and also just migrating to different locations. They were able to completely freely come and go as they wish from state to state, unlike us.
So, but the thing is, what was so bizarre to me is that we were having a stay-home order, right? But
Yes.
then when we're having a stay-home order, all these tents started popping up on the sidewalk, and I was just like, "What the hell is going on?" Did that happen to you guys too? Like, you guys just see like an increase of tents block after block?
It certainly did. I live on a street, Rose here, and right in front of my home, it increased from being 5 tenths to over 100 within the first few months of COVID. And with that being said, we would actually go out there and talk to the people who were out there in the streets, and 9 times out of 10, they were coming in from another state. So again, those same rules where we could not travel from, they even told us not to go to our guest houses if we had them. And it was interesting because they were able to just migrate and do as they came and wish, and no mask, of course, no regulations. They were getting Uber Eats and everything else. It was just a free for all party day and night. And Soledad and I, we hooked up and we were like, we have to find out where all the funds are going. What are these people really getting help with? And how can we stop having this impose on our lives and our children's lives and our senior lives, but also get them the help that they need? Because this is out of control. And it was outside of both of our doors, outside of our homes 24/7. It wasn't something that we just were able to drive by like others. We were actually living it.
And for the
So,
San Francisco listener who's hearing about this today, Venice Beach is a 3.5 mile neighborhood. And in 2020, we had 1,900 unsheltered homeless individuals sleeping on our street. We never had a count in 2021 due to COVID, and we think the number could have tripled. But remember, we are now second to downtown LA. We are second to Skid Row. This is Skid Row West. So welcome to the beach with us.
Yes. With needles in the sand. And
do you guys
dead
have
women
new
in the sand as
postcards?
well. Yeah. Actually.
Do you guys have
Unfortunately.
new postcards? And I don't know. Lately, I've been to LA last year, and you guys started having these like porta potties under overpasses. Do you
We
guys
have
have that in
showers
Venice
too.
Beach?
Yeah, we have showers
Oh,
too.
is it just
Oh,
next to the beach
some even
shower?
have
This is like the
pools.
California development now, right? So describe to me how an encampment looks like to you guys now.
They have complete rights. With it starts off as it's full structures being built out of anything you can imagine. Doors from construction sites, wood from construction sites. These are not actual tents, and these are not actual makeshifts as far as what you would normally see and think of. These are literally hard structures made out of bricks and everything else, with addresses on some of them. And to go even a little bit further, of course, they're not ADA compliant. But
wait, hold on. Give me 1 minute. There are
yes.
addresses on these
Oh,
homeless encampments.
yes.
We're not that advanced yet in San
They
Francisco.
actually have addresses on them.
So
And
can they vote?
And and also we had when all of our bars were shut down, we had a tiki bar in one of the big homeless encampments. So that was the only place to get a drink, the only place open during COVID.
The homeless guy built a tiki bar.
Yeah, tiki bar.
Did they serve Fenty, or what were they serving? Did you buy drinks from him?
I don't think they had the liquor license.
They just had the fentanyl license.
So they didn't have any ABC license. Were you guys was it only serving other junkies and homeless, or can you guys buy a drink from them from a tiki bar on Venice Beach?
I don't think it was the types of drinks that we're really up for. There's a certain level to our level of partying when you have jobs and responsibilities and children. So,
got it.
Yes.
So I mean, I've watched some of the Venice Beach video, and it's wild.
Yeah.
So
right.
I mean, we're not that advanced yet in terms of our construction in Northern California. Thank God.
And every video you've seen from Venice, Soledad and Kai, we both live walking distance from pretty much every video you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, even here, I had a junkie who was cutting my gate, and it was bizarre. I mean,
yes.
Okay, but anyway, I cannot imagine what you guys are living through, because you didn't sign up for this, right? I mean, I remember a couple years ago, Venice was a little bit edgy, but it was still livable. So tell me the transformation.
A lot of people who have lived here, and who are against what Soledad and I are doing, which is bringing attention to the fentanyl crisis, and also the crisis that people are not getting the actual help that they need. One of the things that they say is, well, you live in Venice now, or you're here. For us, we didn't sign up for this. You're right. We actually signed up for a creative community. We signed up for an area that had diversity like us. We wanted an area where we can feel like we were at home, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kai is African American. I'm Latina. I mean, yeah, Venice is the most diverse, hip place. We're not a bunch of bores living in the suburbs. Venice was the spot, and I'm sure that's just how you feel in San Francisco as well.
And honestly, for us, we really wanted an area that represented our diversity too.
Yeah, so that's why you guys settled on Venice Beach, right?
Yes.
So tell me about what had happened with this homeless, with this homeless problem in the starting of the pandemic. I'm pretty sure your blocks were just overtaken by all these guys who were just sheltering in place, right? Just like in San Francisco, that's what happened to us.
So we had always had a homeless problem. Remember that number that I told you, the 1900, that was in 2020, so that was prior to COVID. So we'd always had this. Well, what really happened was during COVID, the city really misused CDC guidance, which said do not break up homelessness shelters or homeless encampments because people need to shelter in place. And yes, that is true if the homeless were sheltering in place. However, that was not happening. And we literally saw our homeless numbers just triple, because what happened was, especially on the boardwalk, which is right by me, every day it was the boardwalk owners that would go out there and move the tents, move the encampments. There would be people visiting the beach, and when you just give up your public spaces, when there's no one there, when there's no shopkeepers opening up every day, it's just you're just drawing them in. And that's, if you're homeless, who wouldn't do that, right? Because you're going to face the path of least resistance. You are going to go where, you're not getting, any tickets or anything. So it's just natural, So why are we so shocked? It's really a failure of our elected officials. Come on, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. And so have you invited any public officials to check out the encampment? What have been their responses? Because I know here we actually have a safe sleeping village So in a way, they're invited by our politicians to even sleep on our sidewalk.
Well, really,
So
all of Venice is a safe sleeping village. Apparently,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what. So, by the way, our council member is Councilmember Mike Bond, and he is the most progressive person on the city council. That's what he praises himself for, and basically, he's invited the entire world's homeless here.
now, what do you mean by the entire world? Are they from out of town?
Majority of our people are coming from other states. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, we host the world. Actually, we had
truly do.
there was a guy living on my street where he is from Ireland.
Mhm.
So I mean, we're international. It's an international safe sleeping spot.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so you've invited Mike out to see your streets, right?
Well, we're probably not his favorite people. I think he knows us both pretty well.
He was forced to walk the encampment in front of my home, and that was only because of Judge Carter, who we deeply appreciate. Judge Carter came out to meet with a few of us neighbors and just to see what we were really dealing with. And Mike Bonin, of course, then came out for that purpose. Yes, but that's about it.
So we are like we're a thorn on his side.
We are,
and a pretty big one because there's 2 of us now.
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
And all we want is for him to do right by the people on the street, but also by the people who live in the houses, or as they say, the housed and the unhoused. We don't feel like one goes without the other.
Right. And is there any family raising kids on like Venice Beach nowadays?
Ding, ding, ding. That's me. I have 2 kids. I have an 11-year-old and I have a 7-year-old. And I also teach. And the classes that I teach are specifically designed to teach children about all of Los Angeles. So we don't believe that children learn in a classroom. Our school philosophy is that kids learn best outdoors. And this has been for well over 10 years that our school has been running this way. And only recently have we not been able to go to these key places. And it's not because of COVID. It's because of the crisis of the mentally ill, the homeless, the fentanyl, the drugs that are running through people's systems, that I cannot take kids out safely on our streets.
Got it.
And just so you know, Kai's son is sitting in the living room. He's probably annoyed that his mom is spending all this time doing this, but I need her. I need her with me.
I just came from teaching and came straight to Soledad to do this interview because we really appreciate you giving us this opportunity. And you asked us a question about if we invited people here. We are open to anyone who is willing to shed light on the crisis that we are facing every day. And so anyone who's willing to take that time out of their schedule and their day to come and understand what we're seeing and what we're actually dealing with daily here, we welcome that and we appreciate it. And that's what happened with Larry Elder. He was willing, even though we knew how tight his schedule was. These are the crisis days of his election. And he was able to take time for us. And we wanted it to be more vulnerable. We wanted him to truly understand what we go through.
Yeah, and remember, we really are open to anyone. Kai and I had both taken Caitlyn Jenner on the same exact walk about 3 weeks ago. And you know what? There's people who do not support the recall. There's people who support Gavin. But you know what? Any politician coming with media to our streets is a win for the community. Because when you get cameras out here, when you get people filming the squalor, the devastation, like the violentness of the streets, that's a win for the community because it means that our politicians cannot deny that it's happening. Now they're forced to look at it. And what we have found, sadly, is that the only way to get our elected officials to take any action is through thoroughly embarrassing them. So that's what we do. We bring the media here. We're showing it every day. And when it's on TV, they can't deny it anymore.
And I have a question. Have you ever invited Gavin Newsom out to see the squalor?
No, but he should come here. Actually,
we don't get responses from his office.
Have you contacted him? We should contact him.
We've emailed him.
Yeah,
we
send a lot of unsolicited, advice and love letters to our elected officials.
Crisis love letters.
I tweet him all the time, actually. So.
But he's been okay. So the problem I have with his photo op cleaning encampment is that he should be sitting behind his desk doing his job, and then we won't have to face this problem. And then he always goes to like those areas with 1 or 2 tents when a block or 2 away there's like a whole street, block filled with like junkies doing drugs. So
And
why
you know
is
what?
he
That
not over
that
there?
wasn't even my problem. My problem was the man did not know how to sweep. You know,
We're two hardworking women here. We actually know how to
my
sweep.
dad, he worked construction, so I know how to use a push brush, and you got to put your back into it. That man had never swept in his life. That was my problem with it.
Talk about a PR move.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I see Tom Wolf joined us. I'm going to send him a speaking invitation and see if he can join us on this thing. I hope you guys don't mind.
No problem.
I'm going to invite Erica to speak as well because I love her. Great. So tell us what had happened at this. So you invited Larry Elder, and
So here's what happened. So, but Larry was our guest. We were thrilled, and you know what? The community was buzzing. There again, there's people who don't support him, but just again, anyone who comes to Venice, it's a win for the community. And we found the right ambassadors. That's what we said. We had it properly staffed. So it was myself, Kai. We had the president of the Venice Chamber of Commerce. He was going to brief Larry on the struggles of small businesses. The Venice Chamber of Commerce, their umbrella organization, they hire 10,000 private employees. We had our local environmental activist, Rick Swinger. He was there with us. He was going to tell Larry about how everything that you see on the streets flows directly out into the oceans. We don't have any kind of urban runoff recycling program, so literally needles will show up on the beach. We had it all. We had Brian Olf. He is one of the board members of Share. It is a highly successful, low-cost operation to house the homeless. And how innovative. Like, they make them share housing. And when you do that, when you put two people in a room together, it really you give someone a partner, and there's less of a chance of them isolating and returning to use drugs. So we really had it all. We were so excited. We were lined up, and we're outside Gold's Gym. And the funny thing is, people are working out, and they see our signs, or they see things, and they're like, "Oh, is Larry Elder coming to Venice?" And we're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Can we come with you?" So we picked up all these like strangers outside of Gold's Gym. They're excited. They're holding Larry signs, and it also is like turning into a little parade.
And it was legitimate. These were actual people who support what he stands for and what he's fighting for. And we actually had more people that were in support of him than who were not.
But we all of a sudden, because I was excited, so I was like, we have to get there early, just in case he's early. Turns out campaign buses are never early. But a lot of us hadn't seen each other in a while, so we were catching up, and all of a sudden we see this U-Haul that was like painted over all white, and someone made a joke, "Oh, that's Antifa," and we're like, ha ha ha. Well, maybe we weren't so wrong, But then, Larry shows up, the bus pulls over, we line up, and I introduced my team members. Everybody gets to shake his hand.
I just have to pause for a second. It's interesting because of that big hug moment that she just mentioned. That image is the image that you see where the LA Times described it basically as if the altercation that the police were investigating was Larry Elder assaulting her with a slap. That was
yes, I saw that, and
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
But can we? Okay, great.
So basically, I give him a hug, and then I introduce him to every single one of our, we call ourselves the Venice ambassadors. Everybody gets a shake. Everybody, it was just so optimistic. I was excited. And we're like, all right, let's go. And so we're walking, we're talking, I'm briefing him. I'm talking about our crime rates. I'm talking about the number of unsheltered people on the streets. And then, we turn onto 3rd Avenue, which is the really bad encampment. Most of you guys have seen the stuff on the beach, the 200 tents there that were moved off. 3rd Avenue is a different animal. This is, people have been arrested there for selling meth. That's where people hide out. Like, so this is the really bad one. And so we wanted to bring attention to the worst one. So that's why we went there. And all of a sudden, the LA Times reported that it was only, the tour only lasted 12 minutes. I felt like it was hours.
It felt quite a long time.
Because all of a sudden, we just start, they knew who we were because they're screaming our names. I saw a few protesters that I've recognized before.
Yes.
And they're just I don't know what we can say on.
They were calling Soledad and I by our name, so we knew that they recognized us personally.
Were they homeless advocates or
no? These were protesters. These are the same people that shout down,
They
other
drove
elected
in.
officials. Yeah,
One has quite a fancy bus. He has one of those VW fancy old buses that
a
you
vintage
hate,
one.
the vintage bus redone, all classically done. He also hosts a PhD, he says, and he's from Germany.
Well, but anyway, so we know some of the people there,
Yes.
and these are, you know, these are woke activists. These are the militant, you know, activists, and they're just trying to call us whores, bitches, sluts. Just,
Yes.
I mean, there's all these like you know, just any off. Oh, I just remember Kai's son is in the other room. So
That's okay, because unfortunately my 11-year-old son is in the other room, but because he lives here, he's heard it all in the last couple of days, and through his school he has heard everything that I've been called, including a nigger.
Okay.
I have to say that
so
because
sad.
that's the reality of how deeply it hurts what people are yelling.
And this is supposed to be California.
That's what was so hard, because, you know, I'm Latina, but Kai is Black, and she, you know, we're standing next to Larry Elder, and, you know, the whole time I just kept, like, I mean, I had just met Larry, you know, I don't know him well, but I was just so sad because I saw this as attacks on her, you know, I mean, they were called every version of the N-word, you know, if you listen to some of the videos, you hear dogs barking. You know, like
they were holding their dogs and literally like loosely to intimidate. And these are actual pit bulls that they were holding.
Yeah, we have a lot of pit bulls here as well in our encampment. But going back, so
I would love for the liberals to show more of the actual video from start to finish versus their select portions that they have put out.
And you know, it's just what I say is like that's probably what I would imagine a KKK rally to be. Yes. You know, we are just shouted down. We're villainized. Just, I mean, every slur you could think of is being said. And, you know, we're walking past chop shops and people are throwing bike parts at us. Like, you know, you don't even think about that. Like how many weapons they have there.
Right.
And then,
from the beginning, we saw the guy who had the pepper spray right from the beginning before Larry even arrived. We saw a guy preparing his pockets with his weapons.
Wow.
So, yes.
And then, you know, all of a sudden, so, I mean, I'm only 5'2", so you can't see me. I'm standing right behind Larry. But then, you know, basically.
I'm 5'9". I felt it all.
Oh, you see her. But then, you know, basically, I was scared that the dog was going to bite me. But I look back because I started hearing something really escalate. And I see his security detail. Remember, these are the people. This is the guy who is protecting us from the mob. And he is getting punched. This man was older, and he was punched in the face a few times and in the back of his head.
Right.
Like this was what was, you know,
and
protecting us.
This is at the end. And again, if the full videos were released, you would really see all of these things. It was even attacks on the idea that I was
where can we watch these videos? I mean,
well, that's the great question. Who is not looking at it from the perspective of recalling Newsom as being a no-no? Who's willing to be non-biased and actually submit their full videos out to the public?
Do you know who filmed it?
Times when people were, you know, literally commenting on just my handbag.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a Black woman. I deserve to have greatness. Hello.
And you know, finally, you know, when I really heard the escalation, I looked back, and that's when I saw the woman. You know, it was a white woman wearing a dress. Yes. You can tell she's female just by her
demeanor, voice.
Yeah. I mean, but she was wearing, it looked like a hot pink wig with a black, or, you know, it's a gorilla mask, ape mask over it. And at the time, I didn't think she was the biggest threat because I was scared about the dogs. I was scared about the punching. But later, in retrospect, that was the most awful offense.
And at that point, we had already heard every derogatory word that you could imagine being called as a minority. And so we were hearing these words being thrown at us, and we consciously knew that we were going to keep our grace no matter what. Soledad and I, we look at it as a place of war at this point, and we're like, we are going to keep our graces no matter what. And many people have mentioned, like, oh, well, why didn't, you know, you guys all fight back? Well, that's what they wanted, and that's what the media wanted.
But they know your name. So you guys live there. These protesters know your name. Do you guys feel safe at all? Like when you walk outside, when you're just going on a walk?
You know, it's interesting. So I've thought about this for a little while. In the beginning, when the encampment started growing in front of my home, I did like most of my neighbors. I started using my back door. I refused to go to the grocery store and bring my groceries in during certain hours. I was completely living in a paranoid state of mind. And what I decided is that if I'm going to be paranoid, at least I'm going to be paranoid and fight for what I deserve. And I think for Soledad and I both, by us being here, being women, we have decided that no matter what, all of our neighbors are paranoid. We have a school with a meth lab right next to it with a convicted felony. They are paranoid. And we've decided to not be paranoid. We are not living our lives as victims.
Well, I will say though, Kai, today I really haven't left the house. I was walking my dog and I crossed the street and I saw two women talking and looking at me, and maybe they were just talking and looking at me, and it freaked me out. Yes. I don't know. Like I literally walked right back inside. I was like, oh, they recognize me. Oh my, like are they on my side or are they not? Like I don't know. I feel scared. Like, I don't know. I'm so paranoid. I understand.
Now. I taught a class today where my students, I had to take them to the beach, and I'm alone with these little kids. And I felt every eye that looked my way were looking at me based off of the fact that I have family in Chicago, St. Louis, New Orleans, Texas, and everywhere else that has been calling me about what happened on the beach. So when I'm standing in my own town and I see people looking at me and I have all these children with me, you do have a sense of breakdown inside of you, and you really get panicked, because you really don't know who's all looking at you and thinking that you're vulnerable in this moment and I can attack you. All because we feel that not only we deserve greatness, but the people on the streets deserve greatness too. And we're demanding our councilman to tell us, what is he doing to help better them to get out of the system? For me, being a Black woman and listening to Larry Elder, a lot of people say to Soledad and I, being minorities, how dare you? And Soledad's mom, I mean, it's like, how can you guys look at him and support the things that he stands for? I believe that when you stand for something so strongly, as we are so far a left state, we have to bring other people to the table or we will not learn. This is something that you teach your children from the very foundations of educating your kids. You have to listen to the other side, and then you can make your conclusion. And so for Larry Elder, there's a few things that really stand out for me. And Soledad and I, when we were out there, we were faced with quite a few of those things. And one of the greatest lessons out of it was, just because we are minorities, we are not your target. We are not the targets of extreme liberals. And you cannot hide behind your whiteness or your Blackness, for that matter, and say that you are extreme Democrat and you can discriminate and hurt us in this way and silence us. We will not be silenced for that reason.
You guys are so brave.
I heard that from a lifelong Democrat. Yes. I was a Democrat. I grew up very liberal. I'm neither, right? I'm neither a Democrat nor a Republican. I'm a libertarian. And I think it's so sad, when you're treated like this. And somebody asked me, why did this happen? And I've been replaying it for so many times in my head. Like I barely slept that night. And what it hit me was because Larry Elder is a Black man, right? He grew up in South Central. He grew up in poverty, and he smashed that. He got out of the hood. He is one of the most successful people. And you know what that tells us? That tells us that no matter the color of your skin, if you work hard enough in America, you can accomplish anything. Larry Elder is the American dream. And that is what makes him so dangerous, because he is basically what socialism dismisses. Socialism says that if you're born in poverty, you will die in poverty, and you need the government from cradle to death, right? Yeah, but Larry Elder, he shows us that anybody can do anything they want, and it doesn't matter on your skin. And that is what makes him the most dangerous Black man in America. And he shows Latinos and Blacks like me and Kai, who grew up in poverty, that we can do anything we want if we work hard enough.
And so I had watched the video, and it really, I did not vote for Larry Elder, but I mean, after I watched the whole video, I mean, I didn't watch the whole video, but I watched him getting attacked, and it reminded me of a video I've watched of MLK, and it brought tears to my eyes. I mean, I just didn't think that I would see that kind of content in 2021 California.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are so brave that you had walked through that. I mean, you're still walking through this outside your home every single day. And so, yeah, so
I'll tell you
what?
one of the heartbreaking things about what you just said about not seeing
Mhm.
this in 2021. I travel a lot. One of the things that we do is we travel up and down the coast with our kids, but we strongly believe that you have to see outside of your box. So we travel the US and the country as well, and other countries and such. So, with all that being said, I always have prided myself on the fact that we live in a very liberal area, and we live in an area where diversity is a huge part of where we live. So when I go to places like even Chicago, even St. Louis, where I tell my family members, these are my family members, and I say to them, "My gosh, things are so separated here in comparison to California or New York," and it's because people are more accepting of diversity here. What Larry Elder has really opened my eyes to is the idea that it's not as open as I have been fed to believe. It's only as open as you are allowed to do what they want you to do. And as long as you are willing to fall into a certain status, then that is where you claim and you think you have freedom. And what was shown to Soledad and I and Larry the other day, something that he already knew because he's been aware of this. And also, let me also add in there our sheriff as well, Villanueva, who is Latina. That we have Latino, sorry, Latina. But that we have been shown as individuals in certain places where we're standing up and speaking up that they don't really want that. And that was really heartbreaking for me to see it it was a humbling moment for me, I would say, actually, that this can happen in my backyard. The amount of words, because it's one thing to say that you don't agree with where we stand and what we're doing, but it's a whole nother thing to call me a whore. Mm-hmm. It's a whole nother thing to have dogs being sicked on me. We used to say, sick the dog on a person. It's a whole nother thing to be saying that Martin Luther King would be saying that you're a disgrace to him. We were having so many horrific things spoken to us, and we continue to walk with grace.
But
And to say
were
that
your
that's
kids
here
there?
is just
Were your kids there to witness all this?
thank God my kids were not there, but
they've seen it on TV.
They've seen it. They know.
Yeah.
We teach our children at our school specifically. We teach our school about the realities of life. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's appalling to me that someone had sent me that article and said, this is Larry Elder was walking on Venice Beach and he's so unpopular that the residents of Venice Beach was actually um were actually fighting him. And so
And that's really heartbreaking to hear because it's just not the truth.
So now you just brought it up. Let's talk about the second attack on Larry Elder.
Yes.
Because we just told you about the racist attack on Larry Elder by the white woman wearing a gorilla mask throwing eggs at him. But now let me tell you about the second one, and this has not been covered. So the LA Times, who was there covering it, they posted a story saying, like basically Larry Elder shouted out of Venice, altercation. No mention of, they don't even mention that it was racially motivated. It's basically like, yeah, Larry Elder was so, not liked. He was shouted out. Then later, and it's funny, I didn't even see someone sent me this. A friend that I didn't talk to in a while, she sends me the article and she asked, did Larry Elder hit you? And it is a LA Times article where, because we had gone to hug, to embrace, and why not show the picture of us hugging? Because I had a huge smile on my face.
Yeah,
like, can you imagine getting a hug from Larry Elder? I was so excited. But instead, the picture the LA Times uses, it finally says LAPD responding to assault in Venice Beach. So then you see Larry Elder and his hand is on my face. They managed to find one picture. So not everybody reads the news anymore. You read headlines and you see pictures. And what you see is Larry Elder, a black man, with his hand on a woman's face. Like, that's what they like. It's like, wow. Well, so that was the second racist attack on Larry Elder in one day. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, luckily, not a lot of people subscribe, and people are dropping their subscription to the LA Times. So, but the unfortunate side to that is that because they know that that's the image and that's the words that they put with it, so they want people to resubscribe to their paper. And please do not do it. Don't fall for the trap.
So the first racist attack on Larry Elder happened on our streets, but it was not by a Venice woman. It was by a protester, a white woman wearing a gorilla mask, who threw an egg at him. The second racist attack on Larry Elder was by the LA Times, who, well, actually, it's probably free, because the 2nd one was, they really dismissed it. They're like, oh, Larry Elder is, not well liked in Venice. But then the follow up was the worst, because obviously, what we decided was, we were upset, so we decided we had to file a police report, and so we demanded it. So I think the LA Times knew that this was, basically there's going to be police reports out there. So I think they want to get ahead of the story, and they're out publishing something, like, yeah, basically there is an assault, and oh, we have this picture of his hand on her face.
Right.
So it's just, we're horrified.
It's manipulation of the photos. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bizarre photo to use. And given the context of what I saw on Twitter and then what I saw on the news, it almost felt like it's a whole 180 of what had happened. And so I mean, it's just
If
so
we-
bizarre. If you had invited
If
Newsom,
we
I
can
bet
get
you
the
he could have
photos
showed
and the
up.
video from
Mhm.
someone, we will definitely post it. And because it needs to be shown, the entire thing. And it was actually such a beautiful process. He was able to see exactly what we lived through. These are neighborhood streets that we live, like I said, walking distance to. These are restaurants near that area, gyms Soledad is a member of even. And, so it's the idea that this is literally our neighborhood. And for anyone who's living on the street who needs help, the LA Times mentioned in their article, which broke my heart more than what happened to me. Being a mother, it broke my heart when they said that there was a 3.5-month pregnant woman on the streets out there. And they brazed over it as if it was nothing. And that is why we're willing to put our lives out here. This is why we are fighting so hard, because there is no woman who should be 3.5 months pregnant living in an encampment when we just spent $5 million on a boardwalk cleanup. Why is this woman 3.5 months pregnant living on the streets? And Soledad and I will continue to make this fight, and we will continue to bring attention to this. There's other people who are great and all, feeding their pigeons and all that great stuff, and they want to feed oatmeal and everything else to the homeless. We are fighting for greater change. And when people say that we are NIMBYs, it's like, if that's the worst thing you could call us for demanding greater, better for everyone, then so be it. I'm a card holding NIMBY. And I like to add that I'm a NYMPhy. I'm not in my front yard, because I don't think that being someone who has worked so hard, that you should say that you don't deserve greatness. But
so
also,
what's your
those on the street
vision?
should deserve greatness.
Yeah, and what is your vision for Venice Beach?
Look, we want people housed. I mean, think about it. I think there's like 13,000 properties owned by the city. Why? Like, it's just our council members. We have 15 of them. They're making $300,000 a year. It's just, and so we've had to step up as these volunteer neighborhood members, and we have outlined so many great proposals, so many great places to put them. None of it's listened to.
Wanting them housed is the part that we all agree on. But the people like the PhD guy on the streets, who's now trying to make a movement that people should live on the streets freely as wish, we have no room for people like him to cloud up and clog up the system. But like Soledad said, we want them housed. That's the one thing that we agree with Mike Bonin on. The difference is that we also not only want them housed, as minority women, we want them in a future where they can succeed. We want them to have job training. We want them to have drug rehab. We are seeing so much fentanyl deaths on our street, and the use of women being raped visually right in front of us, and they can't speak for themselves because they're so drugged out. So what we're fighting for is beyond housing, but accountability of these people. I ask a question to a lot of people who I speak to in the homeless encampments. My first question most often is, how many kids do you have?
Mm-hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, they have children. And my next comment to them is not a question. It's, do you know that your children are waiting for you on the other side?
Yeah.
And so we need to see that happening, but not at the expense of my Black son and my Black daughter and Soledad's Latino niece. Okay? They should also be able to have safety. Okay? It's not an either or.
And so, look, what Kai just said, that's what we want. But let me tell you why this is not going to happen. The people that came out to mob us, the activists, Street Watch LA, do you know who they're funded by? They are funded by the Democratic Socialists of LA, the LA chapter, Democratic Socialists of America. I think you have them too over there. Basically, they do not want the homeless to go into housing, to get drug rehab, to go back to school, finish their GED, talk to their family again, and go out and live successful lives. Because if that happens, it shows that capitalism is successful. And that is against what they are for. So these people, they do not care what happens to the homeless. They are using them as pawns. They're using them as pawns to show that capitalism has failed and that we need a socialist government. They are all about promoting bigger government, a power grab. And I find it disgusting. They don't care if these people are on the streets of filth, that they will die there. They are using them to set a political message, and we're just done with it because I mean, it is disgusting. We're literally in a political. It's not even a political war. This is like a war of the commanding heights now.
I don't know if this happens on Venice Beach, but here in San Francisco, they're fundraising to fundraise for tents for people to continuously live on the street.
That happens here as well. Yes.
Wow. They don't want them to come in and get their life back together. And so, it's crazy because I think, even in those 12 minutes or whatever, I think, Larry was really seeing it. And one of the first topics we got into is, do you think this is compassion? And I said, the people that protest us, they say that we have to be compassionate and we have to let them be there. There is nothing compassionate about letting someone destroy their lives. You know what? I would like to think that if I was hooked on drugs and I was, out ruining my life, that my parents would come, they would find me, they would chain me up, they would throw me in a basement and let me sober up. Because a lot of people used to sober up in jail, and that's not an option now.
Well, so
if you love someone, you will go out and you will fight for them. And sometimes that is tough love. Sometimes you have to lock them up. But that's what my parents would do for me.
Absolutely.
And how can we just let people let's be compassionate. Let's just let you, ruin your life. Let's just give you these free needles. I mean, come on. That's not compassion. That's just saying, you don't care.
Yeah,
it's very
worthy more than that. Soledad, you just mentioned something when you said that the people who are out there that protesting this, the difference between them, so many of them, they have a choice. We are actually out here fighting for those who don't actually have a choice. And it's easy to say, you should let them have a choice. If they want to be out here and live freely, that's fine and dandy for those who, like the guy who has a PhD and the other guy who the sheriff took to jail and he's back out, who had $12,000 cash on him or whatever.
He's a meth dealer.
Yes, exactly.
He disguised himself as a homeless activist.
That's one of the black men in the video.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, hold on. So hold on. This story is bizarre to me.
A few weeks ago, the sheriff arrested a homeless activist, homeless supporter. I think he even had city contracts, but he was really just selling meth from the tent in the homeless encampment. So you know what we find? Like, we're talking, because we keep replaying everything. I feel like we're questioning everything we know now. But so we find these people like that tattooed man. There is some form of street protest art, and then there's these drug dealers. So who's living on our streets? Are they even homeless?
Are they even homeless?
Because we've got these I think everybody's coming here to audition.
I had great Mercedes and BMWs driving up in front of my home. And one of the greatest drug dealers that were living in the encampment in front of me, she was taken away in a fancy, the top of the line Uber. The Uber came and just swooped her up and took her away. I mean, they have some people with lots of power and money behind them. And it's, and it's no shocker, because you got to think that these encampments, the amount of money that's flowing through, they don't need food. Food is delivered. They don't need hotel rooms for showering or anything. That's all delivered to them. The showers come to them. So what does the money go to?
Yeah, drugs. I have no idea. Yeah, I
think building up their empire of drugs. It's one or the other. Either you do drugs or you're building up your empire. And if you talk to any woman, singular, without a man near her, she will tell you how she's being used.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's, I think, that's one thing we haven't talked about, but it's so sad.
It's hard to get them apart though from the men.
Basically, the women homeless, they are the most vulnerable. They're being sex trafficked. And one thing that I have, Yeah, we haven't talked about this in so
it breaks
long,
my
but
heart. It breaks
what
my heart.
I've learned is that basically, a homeless woman will show up. Maybe she's run away from home. Maybe she's had trauma. Maybe she's been attacked by a family member or something. So she runs away, and she shows up in a homeless encampment. And a drug dealer, they give her free drugs. They give her some meth, and they do it on the house, and so she does it, and then she just got there. So then she goes back, and they give her a little more, and it's on the house again. So all of a sudden, she owes a tab of $120. Well, guess what? Now she's gonna have to perform sex acts for that. And to me, I think
we
I
actually
can't even talk
visually
about it
see
right
it.
now.
We actually visually see these sex acts being played out, and it's truly heartbreaking, but no one talks about it.
And I just want to say, I'm a libertarian. I'm this weird hybrid of all, views. And, I used to believe, as all libertarians do, that we should just legalize all drugs. And it was not until I moved to Venice Beach and I realized that I was wrong. That I was wrong. And I can admit that my views were wrong. I can admit that I have views and I saw them and I realized I'm wrong. Because and it wasn't until moving to Venice Beach and having a front row view of all of this. When I see people who are on heroin and meth, I realize that they do not have free will. And that's something else now. And who would have ever thought I'd be like, oh, we have to fight the war on drugs, but something is wrong. When I see it, they have no free will. And I think that's something that we have to, I was wrong to have thought that before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a Democrat, and then now after I've seen how California failed, I just quit. I'm an independent now. I can't. I mean, I used to also think we should legalize all drugs, and now I look at it on the street. Sure, I mean, there needs to be some kind of accountability because, sure, we can decriminalize drugs, but then there's no system for these people to go to, right? There's no accountabilities for the junkies or the drug dealers. I mean, and they keep always saying like, oh, how about Portugal? They decriminalize drugs, and then if you read into it though, if you have over 10 days of drugs on you, you're classified as a drug dealer, and then you actually go to jail, and then actually their junkies have a community service system, and then they also go to therapy. But here, because of this mixture of like freedom and I don't even know what to say.
For any of your listeners that actually travel, it's one of the blessings that I've had with my kids is showing them the world, and they hate it. They hate it because we don't stay at the resorts. How a lot of people, they go and they stay at like the Holiday Inn resort.
I don't stay at a resort at all. Yeah.
So you understand. I have my kids learning 5 languages: Mandarin, Arabic, French, Spanish, and French. I think I mentioned French, but nevertheless, and it's because I want them to really understand the diversity of the world. We are actually, America, we're very small. But when we look at it and we start to travel and you look at other areas, the most dangerous place that I had ever gone was in Brazil, actually. And it was
me too. Salvador is the worst for me.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So Soledad and I have never had this conversation before. And I remember driving through this area and thinking, oh my God. I told my husband, I said, if you have to hit someone, just hit them. You got to keep driving, buddy. You got to keep driving. And we always joke and say our heart is so big, that's why we're not billionaires or millionaires. And he was like, okay. I said, no, you have to just drive and hit them. It was the worst place that I had ever seen as far as the drug cartel taking over the citizens. And the citizens, the citizens completely surrendering to it and turning a blind eye. As long as I'm behind my pearly gates, I don't have to deal with what's going out, because if I deal with it, I will be hurt. And what Soledad and I have decided to do, and we've had these private conversations, is that we've decided that we're not going to give in so fast. And because we're here, and because everything here is outside of our pearly gates, because we don't have the luxury of living in 2,000 plus, 5,000 plus square foot houses, our houses are shoeboxes, okay? Yeah. And and they're a crazy price, and that's the reality of living in the beach world. But our world is outside of these doors, and we're not going to give up. And when I pause, and when Soledad and I text each other, and we go, we got to just lay low. This was so hurtful. Her and I were in tears all night. I said, but you know what? We have that 3.5-month pregnant woman that we're going to keep fighting for. And that's why we're here talking to your audience, is because we know that our work is not done, and we're going to continue to piss people off, draw attention, because there are people here who are legitimately suffering, and they deserve greatness too.
And I have a question. So after this whole incident, you guys didn't even call the police, right? At first.
Well, it's funny. One of our group members, they called 911. The LAPD didn't really respond.
Yes.
So we were really. I mean,
that's another topic for another day.
And I don't know that we should get into that. But
we really honestly shouldn't get into it right now. But if you ever want to know about that, we can talk about that.
We were wondering, why didn't LAPD respond fast enough? And now it's like we're like, oh, the activists were there first. We're questioning everyone.
Can I just say something about that? I'm just going to say one little thing about that. Soledad and I have been strongly. So our leader, our councilman, has written on his Twitters and things like this, fuck the police, okay? F the police. Mm-hmm. Sorry, F the police. Right. Soledad and I have stood ground on supporting our police force, okay? Not only our police force, of course, our sheriff department as well. And I even co-hosted, Soledad was out of town, but I co-hosted the National Night Out. So with that being said, we fully support our police, and that's a whole nother topic for another day.
We were disappointed that they didn't come fast enough. But I forgot what we were talking about this. Also, I was like, shit, we should not be so left.
Yeah, I know. That's a whole
but,
other
it's just,
night.
We were really, I was horrified after that. I came home.
Heartbroken
I cried.
is really the thing. It's heartbroken, actually.
And then the next day, Kai asked me to come over her house. I went over her house, and, we were trying to kind of just write down everything we saw, just keep everything. And she has these two beautiful pictures of her kids where they're doing like face paint. Mm-hmm. And I keep saying them, and like I would look at them and that make me choked up, because it's like I forget that she has these two beautiful kids and they have to go through this. But and then we saw that and really it was the LA Times, right? Larry Elder, or basically LAPD, and like investigating an assault. And it's like, oh, well, so at least they got one thing right, that LAPD was investigating. But then I read that it was robbery and homicide, and I was like, no, mm-hmm. This was not robbery or homicide. And we contacted our Pacific division, our police captain, and we basically said, no, this was a hate crime. We are two women of color. We're the only two women of color on the Venice Neighborhood Council. We are very visual, and those attacks were at us. And so we want to file a police report. These were hate crimes. And you know what? He encouraged us to. He said, yes, you guys do that. And, now we're talking to an investigator. This is a hate crime. It will be treated as such. And, and even just members of the Venice community, this is not Venice. People are horrified. Even people who do not like Larry Elder. We have like a group of like 400 people. Everyone is looking through videos. They're looking through pictures. We are all trying to identify this woman. We want justice for Larry Elder, and we want this woman exposed.
And justice for us.
Yeah. I mean, because this is not fair. Think about Kai's kids, and even just any kid. They don't know that it's politically motivated. They saw that, and they saw, just slurs being yelled at a Black woman, and, it's just, they don't know that. They think that, it's awful. They'll think, I can't even talk about this.
And I try to raise my kids to believe that they're beyond their color, and especially living here in LA, but also to know where your color actually is the forefront. LA has never been a place where I've had to remind my children that color is what they lead with. I've always believed that Los Angeles and New York has been locations where their abilities, their credentials are the leading factors of who they are. And when we go to the South, I warn them, people aren't going to hold the door for you, things like that. You know what I mean? Always stay graceful, always stay respectful. But here, for them to see that happen here, it's hard to get past that,
I guess I'm libertarian, and just like Larry, I do not believe in systemic racism. But you know what? Over the past few days, I saw it. I saw its ugly face, and it's at the LA Times, and it's at our elected officials. I mean, not a peep from any of our elected officials other than Sharafina Leiva. Where's our councilmember Mike Bonin? Mm-hmm. Where's Mark Ridley Thomas? Mm-hmm. Where are all the leading people? Imagine if this was Stacey Abrams walking. And she was running for governor, and someone did this to her. Oh my God, this would be all over the news. Not a peep. And it's, what do they say? To be silent is complicit. So basically, what they're saying is you can do racist attacks on someone we don't like. That's what it like. That's a like I don't know. Like I'm scared now.
Well,
I just invited Erica Sandberg to speak because I walked through the Tenderloin with her very recently, and I think a drug dealer actually recognized me and shouted out my name, and so I was terrified, and I was telling Erica to just keep walking, and we actually experienced the same thing here. Our media is radio silent, and yeah, I mean, I just don't know what's going on in California nowadays. Erica, can you speak up, or if you
Oh,
don't want to
hi.
speak
Yeah,
at all, it's
sorry.
fine.
I didn't realize I've never used the system before, so this is a little bit new for me. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of outside forces right now that are clamping down, trying really hard to shut everybody up.
Yeah, and I don't
I
know
don't think
what is
it's
going
working.
on. Yeah, no, it's working. I
The
can hear you.
experience in Venice Beach is so abhorrent, so devastating. Not anything that can be explained away. LA Times is an embarrassment, and they're embarrassed. Um, I'm just so grateful that for everybody who is standing up, because it's making a difference. I mean, Jenny, you and I definitely go through our despondent moments, but I don't know. I would actually love to know what everybody else thinks. Do you see moments of and glimmers of hope and truth? And uh, this is going to actually have some real substantial
And I see
change
the
in a
same thing
positive
going
way.
on in Boston now too. I mean, I don't even know what is happening in Boston, but it feels like it's happening in Boston as well. Like there's a whole row of tents. I just don't know what's going on.
And what you said, just like, are we making a difference? I don't know. But all I know is,
No.
I mean, when we first went with Caitlyn Jenner, people were yelling transphobic issues. Like, I mean, I really respected her after, like, that was the first time I was like, wow, this woman has a thick skin. But you know what? We have experienced with Ariel, that was something else. And all I can think is, for us to have, like, attracted that much hate, that much, I mean, I guess we are making a difference. And I mean, it's not like we want to be the sacrificial lambs, right? But like, the whole world is watching now, and I guess, I don't know. It's just hard, but like, everyone's looking now, everybody's watching. And so we just need more strong people to come up and do this. I personally could never do this on my own. It was not until me and Kai met. Honestly, like, I was not gonna run again for the neighborhood council. I was done. And then somebody was like, "Will you meet with this woman? Her name's Kai. She's really like," and I get.
I was a lunatic that was
And
just
they were
ready
like,
to
"She's
fight.
African American." I was like,
For our
"Oh,
city.
she's African American and she's pro LAPD. Okay, well, because it's a lot of white people, a lot of white liberals in Venice." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I'll talk to her."
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I didn't even want to do anything. I was just ready to like be done. I was like, I just moved to Malibu. Like, screw this.
She came to my house and she says to me right off the bat, "I need you to be on our meeting on Thursday for the public health and safety. And by the way, you're on the committee. I need you to just approve it now." And I said, "I'm in the middle of hosting an event." She goes, "Well, I just need you to approve it when you're done hosting this event, okay?"
Yeah. Because basically, I went out on a limb and I was like, "Oh, I need this girl." Yeah.
I was like, "Well, okay, boss."
Actually, I took two different versions of an agenda that we were going to do, one without her, one with her. And like, because I started hearing all these great things about her. And then I was like, "All right, here's this agenda. I went on a limb. Yeah. You're on, girl. You're on."
Yes.
Like, we ride together.
And while we talk about like Caitlyn Jenner and
Nice.
Larry Elder, Soledad has been fighting this fight for a long time. And I'm so impressed with how hard she's willing to put herself out there and to stand up for the people on the streets, as well as the homeowners and the renters and everyone else. I came in new to this whole game, but I came in bulldozing my way in because I'm like, I got kids to protect. I have zero tolerance. My kids come first. And between the two of us, women get shit done. Okay. We get stuff done. And we were able to just look at each other and know that with each other and having each other's back, we can get great things achieved. And if nothing else, it's bringing the attention to what needs to happen in Venice.
And we need more of that. If you are listening, if you will join us, come on. Let's go. It's time to do it. You know what? This is our state. I am so sick of everything. You know, these are our streets. I am so tired of this. You know, like I look at what we've done, just the two of us. We need more people. And now we have you, Jenny. Guess what? Now we're statewide, okay?
We are
San
Francisco,
Francisco,
all the way up and down.
Los Angeles. Let's do this.
That's right.
Yeah, I should go visit and check out Venice Beach.
We're gonna. This is now a national thing because here's what I've realized: when it's so isolated, when it's just Venice Beach, this 3.5 mile neighborhood, people are like, "Oh, well, that's because you have a shitty council member. Oh, that's because you're right there. That's because people in Venice are liberal." No, this is statewide. We're talking about Prop 47. This is statewide. We need more cities to come online. We need to talk about more neighborhoods. This is a statewide issue. And look we've got it right here. This host room, this chat room. You know, this is us now. We're going to do this. This is our state, and let's take it back.
That's right. I'm such a city girl.
Yeah.
So during this crisis here, my children, my daughter specifically, who was 6 at the time, she had an emotional breakdown. And this really is hard to talk about. But at 6 years old, with COVID being a factor, but also having an encampment outside of her home and people yelling horrific things. We had a gentleman tell my husband that he was watching our daughter and that he was,
Wow.
And so, and then come into our personal gate and say, shoot me if you're going to, but we're watching your daughter. And so these sort of things were happening. So my 6-year-old at the time was having truly an emotional breakdown. And what we had to do, we camp a lot. And during the whole stay at home thing, what we decided to do immediately to resolve the problems and the stress of my 11-year-old, well, he was 10 at the time, and my 6-year-old at the time, children, we actually purchased a piece of property up north, but in Amador County, where there are no homeless. And as far as like taking over the streets and stuff, they take care of the homeless in a respectful way and in a way that's, holding them accountable, but also not intruding on the homeowners. So with that being said, I'm such a city person, and my family is. The Amador County is about 2 hours out of San Francisco. I was itching like a drug, as much as I can be a drug addict. I was itching to get into the city again. And so I told my husband and my kids, I said, we're going to go to San Francisco for the weekend while we were at on our land. And I said, we're going to go to San Francisco and stay in a hotel. The smell in San Francisco, the smell alone sent us back home so quickly, back to the countryside. And they said, why would you do that to yourselves? So we know that you guys are facing it, and that this is truly a state issue. It's not a city issue, and we're not even a city. Venice is not even a city. It's Los Angeles. So we understand that we're not just a location issue. This is a state issue that we're fighting for, and we appreciate you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was yesterday out. Oh, yeah, Tom.
I wanted to just add in a couple of things. First of all, Soledad, I'm really sorry about what happened, and I want you to know that you have my full support. I've met you a couple of times. We've hung out in Venice. I've seen it firsthand what's going on down there, and it's out of control, just like it is in San Francisco and on Skid Row and all over the state. If I could just back up, I just want to say like 3 things, and then I'll get out of your way. Number one, the recall. We all have to remember that the recall is supposed to be a referendum on Newsom, on his performance as governor, his handling of COVID, his handling of the homeless crisis, and all of those things which he has not done a good job of doing. So it's just unfortunate that the media and all the money that he's raised has been able to change people's views and make it about Larry Elder and make it about conservative versus liberal, Republican versus Democrat, when really what this is a referendum on the governor and his job performance. And I want to remind everybody of that's listening, that it's really a referendum on that, not anything else. Whoever replaces him after that, well, that is what it is. But it really should be a referendum on Newsom himself and his job performance. Second of all, what's going on the streets right now, it was bad already before. And now what they're doing is they say they're doing housing first by putting people in hotels and motels. That is not the housing first model. I just want to make that clear. That's a plan that they had shelved 20 years ago that they pulled back out now just to get people off the street to try to answer everyone's cries for people to do stuff about homelessness. Putting people in hotels and motels with minimal services is not permanent supportive housing. It shouldn't be referred to as that. What they're doing is they're warehousing human beings. And they can do it for a lot. And if you want to take people off the street, you can do it for a lot cheaper by building out shelters, putting people on the street into homeless shelters and getting them connected to the wraparound services that they need, like drug rehab and eventually a pathway into housing, which does not happen in hotels. I can tell you right now from personal knowledge that there have been tons and tons of OD deaths inside shelter-in-place hotels. The worst thing you can do is you can isolate a drug addict. And the last thing I want to say is that with everything that's going on right now, with the homeless crisis, the drug crisis is taking hold in this country and is becoming the new pandemic, so to speak. Fentanyl, illicit fentanyl, whatever you want to call it, has changed the game completely in how, in what's happening to especially the unhoused or homeless population across the country. ODs are skyrocketing. In 2020, we had 93,000 overdose deaths in the United States, over 7,000 overdose deaths in the state of California, 700 plus just in San Francisco alone, and that number is going to keep increasing. It's really, really important that we consider that when we figure out what our new approach is going to be. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you. And thank you, Soledad, for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Gavin Newsom has been failing every Californian. I'm not going to lie. And yeah, so it should be about, it's not about Larry Elder versus Gavin Newsom. It is really about how he's been failing at his job. And it's so amazing to me that Larry Elder didn't bring a broom to go try to clear out that encampment like what Gavin Newsom was doing.
You ask people to come, what is it, to walk a day in my life?
Yes.
Larry Elder walked 12 minutes in our shoes, and that's more valuable than any politician, because those 12 minutes, they're probably going to feel like the longest 12 minutes of his life. That's what we live with all the time. Like, I was talking to Kai, just like this was yesterday. She's telling me a story about how she's going for a jog and, she carries her knife at her. It sounds like a switchblade. And I was like, oh my God. Like,
always.
I carry way more than that whenever I walk outside.
Yes, always. I get on her about it. I'm like, you make sure you're protected when you walk out the store. Yeah.
Oh wow, I hear the siren.
Sorry, I gotta close it.
What's going down right now?
Sorry, this is welcome to Venice Beach. You would think we're at the Kabul airport.
Well, yeah, great. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. I'm so excited that we finally get to connect, and I'm so sorry about what had happened on Venice. I'm still sorry about your living situation on Venice Beach. But yeah.
Thank you.
Stay strong. Stay strong out there.
And thank you, Jenny, for hosting us. What you just did, you just created this group. This is San Francisco. This is LA. Let's keep this going. We now have a statewide movement. So I don't know if we could create some sort of chat room. Let's do this. We've got, I've done so much with Kai, and it sounds like there's some other people on this call. Imagine what we could do together,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. And let's do this. Let's save our state.
Woo,
absolutely. Yes. Woo! We have to.
Vote yes. Vote yes.
Vote yes.
Whoever,
vote yes.
At this point, anyone other than Newsom, let's send a message. Let's do this.
That they work for us, That's the message that needs to be sent. Is that we're not going to just let you do whatever you want and destroy our state. We need to let you know that you work for us.
That's right. We the people.
That's right.
Woo!
Yes, we the people. Yes. And they need to stop hiring all these celebrities, all these other politicians to stand with them. They need to help the people, and that's all they need. That's all we need right now.
That's right.
Yeah. I challenge any of those people who are voting for Newsom to come walk with Soledad and I.
Yeah, let's do it. We're ready
for any of them to walk with us. We welcome it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. Great.
All
awesome.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenny.
Have a great Friday.
Good night, everyone.
Have a great
Thank
weekend.
you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.